Get ready for the radio show that tells you what Wall Street doesn't want you to know.
Oh, I'm a money magnet. Money, money, money's coming to me. Money sets me free. I'm a money magnet. Money, 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 money's coming to me.
It's your daily dose of how to manage your money. And now it's time for Phil's Gang on the Off the Wall Street Radio Network. With your host, Phil Grande.
Good afternoon. My name's Phil Grande, coast to coast around the country, off the Wall Street Radio Network. Mr. Speaker.
How are you?
Good. Thank you very much. It's an honor to have you on our program.
Well, I'm delighted to be with you.
What do you think the effects are with the Arizona law? The judge now has spoke, and the judge has ruled against the Arizona law. What do you think? What effects will that have on this coming November election? If there's a long drawn out, let's say, legal battle.
Well, it highlights the president's radicalism. It highlights how much he's opposed to most Americans. It highlights the arrogance of a federal judge whose property and life is not at risk, who intervenes to tell the freely elected legislature and freely elected governor of Arizona that they're not allowed to protect themselves when they think the federal government has failed to do so. I mean, it just strikes me that on almost every count, this is a bad decision that is going to come back in a bad way.
Regards to the November election, to what extent do you see this upcoming election a repeat of 1994 when you, Newt Gingrich, and the Contract with America swept into majority status, winning the 52 seats in which much of the Republicans based much of their push for major gains on the notion that the Democrats, who in 92 won control of the White House with retaining the seat and the House, or the Senate and the House, had since disappointed the voters. Do you see this? You see a contrast here, or?
Well, there's a huge contrast, and several of the leading students of American elections, Stu Rothschild this morning in his newsletter wrote that the Democrats didn't have to have thrown it all away. Mm-hmm. That this was, in fact, a moment of opportunity where they could have done dramatically better, and they failed. And I think that we have to recognize that everything from a $787 billion failed stimulus package that no member of Congress had read, to an Obamacare that was rammed through despite the country's deep opposition, to the fact that their policies are killing jobs. This is the most job-killing administration since Herbert Hoover. And they now have 9.5% unemployment. No sign it's going to go down. Even their own projections say we don't get back to full employment until 2016. And I think people are just fed up with it.
And the Democrats, their support. Now, they have large support among the male independent voters. I mean, since 2008, I think his numbers have fallen to, 35% in some polls right now. And due to the fact that, as you say, regard to the $787 billion stimulus, that's been a butt-ugly failure. And then you look at the 2,000-page health care reform bill, which they have, these voters have rejected as socialized medicine. And Obama further alienated them by bringing into his administration a group of self-proclaimed Marxists like Dr. Berwick, who's going to be running health care program, Van Jones and Dunn. And the BP oil leak has not helped the president. Clearly identifies the president as an ineffective leader with no management skills. They're all major problems for the Democrats for this November. Now, knowing this, their strategy to win these independents back is to attack the Republicans individually and as a group. Now, and their plan is not to blame George Bush, but to warn that under the Bush and the Republican policies, we now have 72% increase in the debt from $5.7 trillion to $9.8 trillion. And by the time Bush left office, he went from Clinton surplus to a $1.5 trillion deficit. So do you think this plan that they have, is it going to work to get these people back by not really attacking Bush, but pointing back to, well, you want to go back to this mess he created? Do you think that's a good strategy?
No, look, I think the fact is that what we need to do is recognize that government has become the fourth bubble after information technology in 1999, housing in 2007, and Wall Street in 2008, and that we are now faced with an objective requirement to shrink government to the size we can afford, to modernize it so it's effective, to redistribute power back home so that local communities and local organizations and local governments have far more authority. And that this is going to require changes that are almost the exact opposite of what Obama's Saul Alinsky radicalism leads him to be in favor of. I mean, these are secular socialists. They believe in a big Washington system. They come out of a Chicago machine politics, which is why in my book, To Save America, I describe Obama's secular socialist machine. I think that's an accurate phrase. And we have to recognize what the country needs is the opposite of what they're doing.
We are interviewing Newt Gingrich. He has a wonderful book, To Save America. And we're so pleased to have him here with us today to talk about the events, especially this November election. You know, what do you mean when you say that we have the most radical administration in history?
Well, I mean that we have the most radical administration in history. I mean, take whether it is his complete misunderstanding of the nature of America, as he expressed it overseas in a press conference with Chancellor Merkel of Germany and President Sarkozy of France, or his commitment to his belief that he can redistribute wealth, that he gets to decide how much you're allowed to keep of what you earn, to creating a government-run national health system, eliminating all honest conversation about who our enemies are from radical Islamists, so that they're trying to write strategy documents that are don't even describe who our opponents are. I mean, just go through item after item like that. It's amazing.
On a light note, you had an endorsement from Dean. What do you make of that?
It was kind of amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed to me that Howard. I said at the time, I'm a little concerned that he just gave my opponents. If I do end up deciding to run, if Clifton and I make that decision, he just gave our opponents the best possible commercial against us in the primary. This is Newt Gingrich, the Howard Dean candidate. I'm not totally sure that's the model I want to have, for us to try to reach out to the American people.
I was a Republican. I left, and I'm an independent now. And what I was really upset with was that I saw what they did with the Medicare prescription drug program. Mm-hmm. And I was really disgusted when I saw how they rigged the number. They wanted to keep the number, I think, under 400 billion, something like that. They didn't want to give the true number out because they felt they get the true number out, the few votes they need, they would have lost. It really, the game playing that went on with that really upset me. And then also, at the end of the day, they made a deal with the corporations. They gave them a great deal. They gave them something like, $620 per reimbursement per retiree that came off their program that went to the Medicare program. And then we see the same thing happen again with healthcare plan, all the bribes. And I guess my question is, as an independent, I'm not yet sold. I'm certainly not sold on the Democrats, but I'm not yet quite sold on the Republicans either, because I still remember that kind of game playing just as bad as what these guys were doing with this healthcare plan. So what would you tell me that's different about them now, that as an independent I could now go and trust them and vote for them and no more of this game playing?
I don't think that you should trust them. I don't think you should trust anyone to whom you loan power. I think what you should do is say that they're certainly far better than the Democrats, that certainly the younger ones, the Paul Ryans, the Kevin McCarthys, the Eric Cantors, seem to be getting a new model and seem to be moving towards a more Reagan-like approach. But they need continuous effort to improve what they're doing and to keep thinking about what they're doing. And I wouldn't say that people should give them a blank check of any kind. Reagan had a great line. He said, "Trust but verify."
Right.
And I would say, loan them the power and pay attention to them every day and remind them of their promises, and don't let them get away with baloney.
It seems to me that when you see the stimulus, TARP with Bush, stimulus with Obama, and you think of all the trillions of dollars they put in and the billions of dollars, it's almost like they put the money in the wrong places for a purpose, that they don't want the middle class to really do well. It's like they want to get to this November election without the economy turning around. They don't want the economy to do well, especially the middle class, so they figure that the more we can get this middle class to depend on us, like that health care bill, it's like they shoved that health care bill in so quickly to say, let's give them that health care bill so they got to really depend on us because we have nothing to run on, but let's get them to depend on government. That's the first thing we should get them to depend on. Seems like they're doing it on purpose.
The fact is that these folks, I think, want to destroy the middle class. They want to create a world in which we are all, in effect, controlled from Washington by bureaucrats. And I think that we have to recognize how real and how serious this is.
And the other thing that gets me is, how come nobody went to jail over this mess? I can't believe Skilling went to jail, all these other guys go to jail, and I can't believe everything that happened with this meltdown and what went on with AIG and Geithner and Hank Paulson and like nobody, not one person went to jail with this total meltdown that just wiped out folks, their money, their 401k, their housing. It just seems so strange to me.
Well, look, I will tell you absolutely that I believe the fix was in from the insiders. I think it is disgraceful, and I think that we should, all of us, feel that it was absolutely and profoundly inappropriate not to have a more thorough public investigation of what went wrong.
And this bill that they just put together with the financial reform bill, they didn't include Fannie and Freddie. Two guys that created most of this mess it was Frank and Dodd. You talk about two guys that should go to jail. But they left out Fannie and Freddie. What's your take on that?
That's because the same fix was in among special interest groups. There, and you're exactly right. The biggest liability financially the United States faces is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the two giant housing facilities, and the Congress did not go after that.
Are you running for president?
Well, Callista and I will make that decision with our family sometime next February or March, but for the moment I'm focused totally on trying to develop the biggest possible support in terms of the elections this fall. This is a great opportunity, I think, for us to do much better than people expect and for the country to decisively move away from a secular socialist model and send a signal to Washington that that's not the way we want to take the country.
Is Reid going to win, you think? No,
I think that when you're the majority leader and you're a job killer and you help kill 14.5% of the people of Nevada are unemployed, I think it's very, very hard to imagine how you're going to have any kind of effective campaign for Reid in the end. Sharon Engels had a couple bad weeks, but in the end, she hasn't killed any jobs. She hasn't done anything that people can blame her for. And Reid has been vividly and intensely, I think, deeply involved in this. This is his unemployment rate and his problems.
Yeah, and I love the way they talk about how they created all these jobs. I never heard that term that they saved and created. I can't find a metric system. Can you find a metric system for saved? I haven't found one yet.
No, it's silly. It's just PR.
I really want to thank you for the interview. I really do, and appreciate it, and appreciate your time. And we really hope you do decide to run and be an interesting race. Would you?
Well, I think it's very important to offer a clear alternative, an alternative of freedom, of local government, of lower taxes, and of more job creation.
Yeah, because you're going to have somebody strong to pull like me, to pull I'm an independent. You got to have somebody really strong to pull the independents back. Don't you agree?
Yes, I absolutely agree.
Because that's going to be I think the key right there. You got to get me back and all the other independents. Well, again, I thank you very much for this interview. It was terrific.
Thank you. It's fun being with you.